Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
So hosting a hell of a fight card, in my opinion. Main event is Rory MacDonald and Stephen Thompson. So who other than Mr. James Lynch comes and joins me to talk about it, because I need a bit of a Canadian twist on it. Sir, thank you so much.
Hey, appreciate you having me on. You know, I love doing this show, so thanks for having me.
So here we go. Right, we're going to talk about the kind of Canadian contingent that's stepping up onto this card. There's a handful of great fights. I suppose we could start with, well, ladies first, really. Ronda Marcos is taking on Jocelyn Jones Lebarga. Okay, Lebarga. I think it's Lebarga, isn't it? Now,
it's Linebarger, but could be wrong.
I'll get it wrong. I'll get it wrong every day, all days. But Jocelyn came in as well into the UFC, bless her, and her debut, albeit, I'll tell you what, I was very impressed with her debut when she came in. It was Tecia Torres. I was mightily impressed with that debut that she had. I know she lost the decision, but she did really well considering for who she's going up against and who she's fighting. I was impressed.
Yeah, I agree, and you know, and Torres, obviously, you know, a veteran of, Linebarger, a veteran of the RFA organization. Of course, she got into the UFC after that impressive win over Zoila Frosto, the former Bellator champ. This is a really cool matchup because I think, you know, Marcos obviously had a lot of success on The Ultimate Fighter. Things haven't necessarily gone her way in the UFC. She's 1-2 right now. Granted, I mean, you look at the competition, you know, Jessica Penne, Asling Daly, and Karolina Kowalskiewicz. I totally butchered that, but she didn't win that fight. She's coming off a loss heading into this one. They're both coming off losses. So I think this is, I mean, honestly, I have a really tough time picking this one because I think Linebarger's got really good wrestling, comes from a really good camp in the MMA lab. And Marcos, you know, she was training at TriStar, I know, heading into that fight with Karolina, but she's now back at Michigan Top Team training with Darren Cruikshank. So not as good of a camp as, say, what Linebarger's using at this point. I don't know. I think this is going to be a really competitive decision. I just don't know which way it's going to go. But if I'm a betting man, I actually think I'm going to go with the American here. I think Jones Linebarger is going to pull this one off.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I can see it being a decision. It's nothing against either fight. I just think the pair of them, they're the kind of girls that will just put a good 3 rounds in with each other. And yeah, I probably would, after the performance I saw of Jocelyn against Tecia, and you got to take maybe into fact, maybe she had a bit of jitters, maybe with a UFC debut, it does have a factor in. I think she'll be a lot more relaxed in this fight, a lot more fluid. I would probably just give her the edge.
Yeah, and you know, when they made this matchup, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this for Randa, because, you know, you figured a Canadian card in Canada, they want the Canadian to get the win here, but, you know, Jocelyn Jones-Linebarger is going to push her to the limit, and it'll be interesting to see how, you know, who has a better stand-up in this fight. Randa's really worked on her stand-up, especially being at MTT. You know, Darren Cruikshank's got some incredible stand-up, so that's obviously evolving. I'll be curious to see how she looks in the stand-up department. Linebarger's also got some pretty good wrestling as well. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. The one thing we know for sure in this fight is that this probably won't go to the ground. They're both purple belts. I can't see Randa trying to, you know, take this to the canvas. I think she's going to try and sort of outpoint Linebarger. But, again, I think Linebarger's kind of got her number here in this one. So, and she's also got a bit of a height advantage in this one. Height and a bit of a reach in this one as well. So, you know, it's something to consider as far as looking at the opponent. Linebarger's 5'7". She's got a 66-inch reach advantage. Marcos is only 5'4". She's got a 63-inch reach advantage. So if Linebarger can use her length, that could pay dividends.
Ooh, Jab City coming there possibly. Let's look at a fight that I'm quite looking forward to on this one, because I like both parties. Alex Garcia, Colby Covington. That fight is a cracking little bout. I think that's one of the ones that kind of is going to go under the radar on the card, but it's in itself, I think it's a great fight. You know, I know Alex Garcia lost to Sean Strickland with a TKO. It wasn't like a Hector Lombard finish the other night on 199, but the pair of them were just coming off a loss. Obviously, Wally Alvarez beat Colby Covington down in Brazil. That was a crazy fight, that one. I like to see how both of them come back. I like to see how Colby comes back mentally with his first loss happening. How does he perform? Does he come over aggressive? Does he try to make a points? Is he controlled? Is he just going to do what he has been doing before the loss? I like the factors that are coming externally into this bout.
Yeah, me too. Of course, we got a mini Lombard taking on Colby Covington, both 28 years old. Covington, obviously the taller guy. I mean, that's one of the things with Garcia. They call him mini Lombard just because of the fact that, he looks like Hector Lombard. He's also pretty short for the division. He's only 5'9". You wonder if maybe like a lightweight would be a better fit, but he's a thick guy, right? It's tough to say. I'd be interested to see how Garcia is going to deal with the height and reach of Covington. We know he struggled against Sean Strickland and obviously against Neil Magny as well in that fight as well. I'm having a tough time with this one. I could see Garcia potentially catching Covington and knocking him out, but I think more than likely Covington probably wins a decision here. I think again he outpoints Garcia over the 3-round affair and sort of pulls it out here. And I hate to go against another Canadian here, but that's just kind of how I see it.
Well, I didn't want to, but I went against Bisping. I went with Rockhold. I know it went wrong, but you've got to look at it as a person, not as a national, because it's easy to go with your heart and not with your head. And that's the thing. It does. If a fighter can use their reach, it does then play a part in the fight game. But so there is quite a few fighters who don't use their reach to their advantage. And like you said, Garcia's had that difficulty with taller fighters. So in the past, has he fixed it? He might have done. We don't know. We don't know what he's went and worked on. He might have worked on techniques to close that distance. Maybe use particular combinations to keep that gap nice and tight. Maybe. I look forward to seeing if he has figured it out, because if he has, I want to know what he's going to do. I want to know if he can answer those question marks, because if he hasn't, why have they not done it? Why have they not addressed it? That's then my next question.
Well, and the other thing to consider too is these guys both come from great camps. Garcia coming from TriStar and Colby Covington coming from American Top Team. So it will be interesting to see, for us, a hobby, obviously a master strategist when it comes to the game plans and everything. It'll be interesting to see kind of how this goes. Garcia, the one thing too with him is, he hasn't got a finish in a fight since his UFC debut, and that was back in 2013. So maybe, trying to win more on points type thing, it's hard to say, but or it's just, I think, a matter of just not being able to get in on the inside. So, again, I'll stick with Covington here, but it would not surprise me if Garcia is able to clip him. Covington has never been knocked out in his career, but anything's possible, right?
It is. Anytime anyone can get finished. Look, this next one I've got the Canadians back. Olivier Aubin Mercier is taking on a Frenchman in Thibault Gouti. I'll say that. That's how I'll pronounce it. I've got Mercier on this one all day. I think it's a hell of a fight to make it. To come into. I know he lost his first fight in London against Pacalan. Guto did. Really, it was something like 20 odd seconds, wasn't it? At the first, something crazy. I can't remember now.
24 seconds in the first round. That was a UFC Fight Night 84, the Silva Bisping card.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can. It's almost like you can scratch it off. For him mentally, he's like, look, I got. It just happened. Got caught. Got trapped. Got tapped. You can wipe it off. But the thing is, you're then going to go over to Canada. You're going to fight a lad who's a local, and he's going to have the crowd backing him up. It's a hell of a fight to go into for your second bout, and it's not like he's fighting a softie as well. Olivier has not even lost via a TKO or submission. People can't finish him. He's tough as nails. The dude is so hard, and he is a very good fighter himself.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just look at kind of the way the UFC sets up fights. They've been really high on Olivier ever since he was on The Ultimate Fighter. People forget that he actually got a Reebok deal, right out of the gate, even over a guy like Chad Laprise, who actually won The Ultimate Fighter. So they're pretty big on this guy. I know people have made comparisons to him and Georges St. Pierre, the whole French-Canadian thing. He's coming off the loss to Carlos Diego Ferreira. Obviously not a very good performance in that one. Just a second loss in the UFC, but you hit it on the head there. He hasn't been finished. Very durable guy. If you remember the fight against David Machado, they kind of went back and forth in that one.
Awesome.
Olivier ended up pulling out the submission in that one. But it showed to me that Olivier's got a lot of heart, and he's got sort of no quit in him. I'm with you. I think Olivier wins this, whether it's by stoppage, whether it's by decision. I think this is a fight they want to showcase Olivier and get him that push, because up here in Canada, there aren't too many superstars, aren't too many guys that you can kind of look at and say this is the next big thing. Olivier's still very young, 27 years old. I think he's a guy that they are pushing. They want him to get an impressive win here. Give me Olivier Aubin Mercier in this fight.
And I agree with you. I think it's going to be a submission. I think he's, after seeing the last fight and the way the last thing went, I think he might try to swarm him and get that submission under his belt. Look, next fight, another Canadian is on the card. There's plenty of Canadians. It's great, I think, for you to see. What I like about the card is, I'm just going to quickly mention, is it's great for Canadian fans to kind of sit there and go, actually, we've got a lot of talented fighters on the roster, and it's good that a lot of them are on this card. Jason Sago is going to take on Leonardo Silva. Leonardo? Yeah. Leonardo.
I think it's Leandro. I could be wrong, but
this Brazilian. Don't worry.
I think it's Leandro Silva.
We'll call him Silva. Silva is the Smith of Brazil. I have to admit, Jason, when he beat Justin Salas, and that was a great performance. Obviously, and Jason is tough as nails in that fight against Paul Felder. If you take it on Paul Felder and you go 3 rounds with him, you know, you get my praise, because Felder hits like a tank and he hits hard. I'm impressed with Jason as a fighter in the UFC so far. I've been very impressed with him. But then again, Silva himself, he's shown great kind of durability, and he's been doing his little thing down. Obviously, in his fight cards, decisions, he's had submissions. I'm still going to go with Jason. There's something about Jason with his fluidity, and especially his last fight, I think it was what blew me away. I'm probably going to go with Jason.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that way as well too. And you know, for me, it's just that I don't even think we've seen the best Jason Sago yet. We saw glimpses of it in the Felder fight, close fight that he ended up losing. I think he learned a lot from that. He went through some injuries. He actually missed all of 2015. Yeah. And to have a layoff like that and come back and put on a performance like he did at UFC 196 is very impressive. Now, Leandro Silva, he's got a bit of a layoff coming into this one. He hasn't fought since November. He got the win over Efren Escudero. Nice win. Escudero, you know, kind of a gatekeeper type in that division. I just see Sago going out there and again, you know, just showcasing his stand-up. You know, the interesting thing about Silva is that he's never been finished in his career. Could Sago be the one to do it? It's possible. I think more than likely, though, Sago just outpoints him, earns a decision in this one, a comfortable decision, not one where we're kind of, you know, scratching our heads. But I do expect Jason Sago. I think the short turnaround for him, you know, he fought, you know, just in March. I think it's going to pay dividends. I think he's got a bit of momentum going, and I think he's going to head into this fight and with all that momentum and get the W here. Yeah,
that grappling transitions that he did in that fight against Salas was beautiful, and that's what I think scored it for me. I thought he's definitely worked when he was away injured. He did a lot of work, and it's, like I say, quick turnaround. It will be I think it's going to be a great performance. I think that he is probably going to be a potential star of the night coming out of that whole card. Another fight, I think, this one's for the fans. It's going to be 2 guys that are not going to be interested in going for a takedown and trying to get a submission. You got Steve Boss against Sean O'Connell, or Bosse, sorry. That fight is made for just 2 guys who, it's almost going to be like a rock and sock'em kind of fight. I know they're both technical fighters, but I can just see the two of them just banging each other out.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup, right? Because, you know, Bosse, a lot of people, you know, he retired. He's a former hockey enforcer. Let me just point that out right off the bat. You know, I think most people know that, but if not, that's sort of what he made his name for. And, you know, he got into MMA a bit late. He got in 2007. You know, Bosse's 34 years old now, so not exactly having youth on his side, so to speak. But, you know, he hadn't... You know, he made his UFC debut in 2015. He lost brutally to Thiago Santos in middleweight, which I don't think was the right weight class for him. He's fighting at light heavyweight now. And then he comes off the big win over James Tahuna. Now, you can't really take much away from that win over James Tahuna, because we all know James Tahuna kind of, you know, deteriorating. Obviously, he retired for a reason, and then that was just because, you know, his chin, his punishment. He's taken too much punishment in his career. Yeah. O'Connell, on the other hand, you could almost say the same thing. I mean, he got knocked out by Jimmo. He's got knocked out by Ira Latifi. But those are high-level fighters. And if you look at the experience factor, you have to go with Sean O'Connell here. You know, O'Connell obviously, you know, trains at a Jeremy Horns, comes from a pretty good camp, and obviously has that really good wrestling as well, too. Again, hate to go against the grain here, but I'm going to take O'Connell in this one. I think Bosse's only chance in this fight is to knock out Sean O'Connell. If he can't do that, it's O'Connell's fight to lose at that point. I think he's got the experience on his side. He's fought better fighters, and I think just overall his wrestling is better. So I'm going to take Sean O'Connell probably by decision.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't see a going decision. I just can't. But I don't know. I think it's one of them ones where you're going to see the two of them just swinging. I've got images in my head already the way the fight could play out, because you got to think O'Connell only beat Anthony Perosh, who was, to be fair,
kind of in James Tahuna territory, so to speak, like on the way out.
Matt Van Buren, who was not UFC level, and So again, it's one of them ones where I think the pair of them are on, I'd say, even keel in the sense of skill sets and wins. I think Boss might have a bit of. I think the momentum is with Boss in the sense of he's in Canada as well. You've got the home crowd. It might just. I think that's something that might make a difference in the fight. Home advantage can play a little part, and I think that's something that can play a part in it. In my opinion.
And it should. Sorry, go ahead.
In my opinion, I think that's the thing that'll play advantage in the fight. I think that's a home field advantage for him.
And I'm going to give your listeners a little culture lesson here. So when you say hometown, obviously Canada's pretty damn big as far as the different provinces and everything like that. But Ottawa's actually only about an hour and a half away from Montreal, and Ottawa is very heavily French-speaking. So when you say hometown, you're actually right, because Bosse, French-Canadian fighter, he probably will have a lot of people coming out for this fight, because like I said, very heavily influenced by the French. So that could play a factor, and I do think it probably will. It'll give him a nice boost in this fight. The one thing I will say, though, is I just think that as far as like OConnell and his skill set and everything like that, I think knowing that he came off that knockout loss to Latifi, he's going to try and just keep this either on the ground or try and just keep it against the cage, try and neutralize Bosse's stand-up, because really Bosse's only way to win this fight is by knockout. You look at his record, the majority of his wins are by knockout. O'Connell's going to try and neutralize that, and I think if he's able to, obviously he'll be able to win the fight. But nevertheless, awesome fight on paper.
Try and gas his arms out or something with a bit of grappling. The next fight is the hair versus the smile.
Yeah,
that's how you describe this fight. What annoys me about this fight is I like both of the guys. I love both of them. I love Elias and I love Sam. I think it's a nightmare pick. It's a nightmare to pick a winner in this fight, because when you saw Elias fight in his last bout, and I know he lost to Iago, and it showed though how tough Elias is. Like, that was a fight that people finally went, that dude can take a hit and keep going. He doesn't crumble. He doesn't give up. He just keeps fighting. I know there's a lot to work on still for Elias. I've spoke to him off air about it when I had him on and stuff like that, and I spoke a little bit about the technical side of things with it. But Sam Alvey is one of them guys. He's a dangerous counter striker. Alvey can bang. He can hit. I love the fight because it's one of them ones where Elias kind of springs in to throw his combinations with his footwork and his movement. That's kind of fallen into Alvey's trap, where Alvey likes to just throw the counter strike. So if you're coming in, it's perfect. That momentum, he used that momentum against you. So I don't know where I'm going with this. It's a hard one.
I'm going to slightly give the edge to Elias, but again, it's not a super confident pick. I mean, this is one of those fights where I wouldn't want to bet on it. If anything, I might take the over, just because I think that this probably will go to a decision, just because both guys have proven to be durable. I know Alvey's coming off the knockout loss in his last fight, but I think that was the first knockout loss actually of his career, and I'm looking at his record here, and it appears it is.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Actually, got something right for once. But Elias, you mentioned it there, just so tough. Thiago Santos, he probably knocks out a lot of guys with some of those shots he landed, and Elias was able to hold up quite well. The one thing that's interesting about this fight for Elias is I believe he spent the entire camp at TriStar, working with those great guys over there, working with some of the other guys like, Rory MacDonald and Mike Ricci and guys like that have really sort of, sort of the best training partners you could get at this point. Now, Alvey broke his jaw. If you remember, shortly after the Brunson fight, I think he was sparring with someone. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they broke his jaw, and so how's that going to play a factor in there? I know there was, if you look at someone like Cajun Johnson, for example, who was on Elias' season, he broke his jaw, and there was a bit of a period where he couldn't take a punch, and you wonder if Alvey's going to have that same problem. So I don't know. I think it's a tough fight. I'll go with the younger guy. I'll go with the guy who, is at a pretty damn good camp. Not to say that Alvey isn't. Alvey trains with Dan Henderson out of Team Quest, but I will take Elias by decision. I think, being in the hometown, having the hair, everything else, I think he gets it done.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of TriStar people are on this card, and there's probably quite a lot of good momentum going into the fight card when everyone's training together, they're peaking together. It's a good vibe. With Sam Alvey, he has that momentum. Dan Henderson win. It always rubs off on fighters. When guys get wins. Do you know what? I'm just looking forward to the fight, because for me, on a technical standpoint, I love how both fighters are going to figure out each other. Because, like I say, if Elias can figure out a way to get around the lunging in because of Alvey's counter striking, or does Alvey used to counter strike? I love that chess match straight away. The pair of them will match up well. Again with the broken jaw, Eddie Wineland broke his jaw. Look what happened when he came back.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's a. If Elias can land, will it play a factor? We don't know. Next fight, the lovely ladies. We're getting another debut in the UFC with the ladies of 125 pounds getting introduced to flyweight division. Which for me, as soon as it got announced, I kind of thought there's more matchups, there's potential super fights. It's just fun, pure fun. I immediately thought about Miesha Tate, because she said about maybe doing 125. I recall her saying somewhere in an interview, going down to 125. And then I thought about Joanne Jacek, who fought previously at 125 outside of the UFC. And I thought about them too. And I thought, oh, that'd be amazing. You know, potential super fight, who knows. But before all that, you have a hometown girl, Valerie Letourneau.
Letourneau, you're close, yeah.
Valerie Letourneau against Joanne Calderwood, who is actually in Canada, training in Canada in TriStar.
Training in TriStar, exactly.
So it's, you know, she's like a adopted kid, Joanne. Look, Valerie's fight against Joanna was crazy. It showed how hard Valerie can take a hit. Like, it showed how much resilience she can take. For me, Joanne has been one of the girls who's just not performed anywhere near what she did when she was Invicta. She's not the same. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. But I'm hoping at 125 we might see Joanne perform to what we know, because if she can, then I think this fight is a great matchup, and I think it'll be a great fun to watch. I think the pair of them will go to a decision. It'll be a decision victory for either one.
Yeah, I'm going to start off by saying, as long as Joanna Jędrzejczyk or someone like Miesha Tate doesn't come down to the 125 division, assuming that's where they're going, I'm hoping they will, I'm going to say right now, right here on John and Mike's MMA Corner, that Valerie Letourneau will be the flyweight champion if they ever decide to go that route, because I really believe that she's that damn good. I think Letourneau wins this fight, quite convincingly. I think Joanne will put up a good fight. I agree with you. I don't think she's sort of lived up to the hype. Had a pretty lackluster UFC debut against Sohee Ham. Lost to Marloes, obviously, very quickly. I know a lot of outside factors played into that one. And then the Courtney Casey fight, even then, early on, she didn't look that great.
No.
Casey ended up losing that fight, but I think, again, short notice and everything else. I think, and that fight was in July. That's been quite a while since Joanne's last fought. Letourneau fought the champ. She lost, but it's not the type of loss like Claudia Gadelha,
Carla Esparza.
What's her name? Carla Esparza and Jessica Penne endured.
It was
a total beatdown. Letourneau, she went to the final bell. She gave Joanna her toughest test, one of her toughest tests to date at this point, and I think that says a lot about her skill set and everything else. Letourneau takes the decision, in my opinion. I think she totally outpoints Joanne Calderwood, and I think she's going to be a force if they decide to go that route at 125. And the other interesting thing is, because I don't know if you guys have caught on this, I'm a big fan of the storylines heading into fights. Letourneau used to train at TriStar, so a little bit of interesting storyline there with Calderwood at TriStar, Letourneau at American Top Team now. Interesting kind of angle here, but I think Letourneau gets it done. I think she's awesome.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what they do with the 125. I would like them to do a 125. Because Jessica Andrade was a perfect example of, she was in the wrong weight class, but she took it to be in the UFC. And the same with Rosie Sexton. Rosie Sexton went up to 135, but she's actually a 125, and it showed that there's that gap in the 125s where these girls are either cutting too much to get to 115, or they're going up to go to 135, and you need to. But they stick that 125 in. I think it's a great idea if they do it. I think it'd be fantastic. I think it'd be just what they need. And I think it'd be, a couple of girls moving into it that are already established in the UFC. So it would just make for a great mix-up, and especially matchups anyway. Yeah,
I totally agree. And this is the perfect fight to sort of kick it off.
Yeah.
Again, I think Letourneau will win, but Calderwood's someone who can put up a fight. I mean, she might surprise. I just think that we haven't seen enough at this point to sort of say, hey, she's going to be a caliber fighter like Valerie Letourneau. I think Letourneau gets it done.
Anytime this man fights, I think everyone gets happy. Donald Cerrone, and he's fighting your boy Patrick Cote.
I know.
I'm gutted about this, but at the same time, because Cote's been on fire, and I'm favouring Cote in this fight.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, another underdog. His last 3 fights, Cote has been an underdog against Berkman, against Saunders, and now here against Donald Cerrone. What I find interesting about this is I didn't think Cerrone looked that good in his debut against Cowboy Oliveira. Now, granted, that was a late replacement. He was supposed to fight Tim Means. But I don't know enough about Cowboy at welterweight at this point. Now, obviously, Cowboy has the threat of the submission. That's his bread and butter. You look at of his 29 wins, he's got 16 by submission. Now, Cote, he's worked tremendously on his submission defense. I think if the Patrick Cote that fought Ben Saunders, say 5 years ago, he probably would have got submitted in that last fight. But he was able to survive. He got the fight to his feet, and he was able to knock him out. And I love Cote's power at 170. I think Cerrone's going to want to stay standing. The only thing that I kind of look at in this fight that I don't know how Cote is going to deal with is the kicks of Donald Cerrone. We saw someone like Eddie Alvarez struggle with that a little bit. But as far as like the height and the reach, Cerrone's got a little bit of a height and a little bit of a reach advantage. I don't think he's going to be used to using his size like he normally has against opponents. And I think facing a guy in Cote who's got the power he does, I think that smells. I think this is Cote's fight to lose. So I think Cote wins. I'm surprised he's the underdog, to be honest. But people like Cowboy Cerrone. What can you say? I
am with you, James, 100%. I love Cerrone, but I do back Cote in his fight. I think he's been absolutely stellar so far at welterweight. Utterly amazed by his, and he is a man who went to a decision with Stephen Thompson. Like that. Yeah. That there alone says it all, considering Steve Wonderboy Thompson has been steamrolling, murdering people. He murdered people lately. He took out Hendricks, Ellenberger, Whittaker. Robert. I know Whittaker's went up to 1-8 back up. Then who else he beat? He's basically murdering people. Just murdering people, and Cote shows how tough he is. I just don't. I know Cerrone. The thing is with him, we know he'll say yes to anyone. He'll fight Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he will. And I'm still, and I said this sort of going into this fight with Rafael dos Anjos, and granted it's a different weight class, but people love Cerrone for the fact that he's so carefree and he drinks, he doesn't care about his diet and everything like that. Like, that stuff does catch up to you at a certain point.
Yes.
Like, I think that, Cote, that's one thing that he's been really good with. He got a nutritionist, so his weight's always been on point. Like, he fought forever at 185. I think 170 is the perfect division for him. And I think that he's really sort of improved a lot of aspects of his game. You look at his wrestling. Remember when he fought Kyle Noak? He completely out-wrestled Kyle Noak in that fight. People picked Kyle Noak in that. A lot of people were. I think Noak was actually the favorite heading into that one. So Cote's worked on all facets of his game. His stand-up was always his bread and butter, but he's worked on his submission defense, his wrestling. Cerrone's going to have to come with a lot more than just his usual kicks and his submission game, to get Cote out of this fight. So I'm taking Patrick Cote, man.
I'm looking forward to the first clinch they have, by the way, James, because then you'll see the difference with the strength and the size, and see how much, you'll see how much of a difference it makes then. Because, like I say, in the last fight, it wasn't. I don't even really, like you say, there's not much to take from it. This one, I like to see, when they get against the cage, see what Cote's strength and size difference makes. But let's go to the main event, James. Oh my good lordy! This is a no pants party main event, isn't it? I have to. I partly feel a little bit sorry for Rory MacDonald. His last fight on his UFC contract, and they give him Stephen Thompson because he says he's going to try out the free agency.
Yeah. It's a high risk, high reward strategy by Rory. I don't know. I think they might be biting off a little bit more than they can chew, because I like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in this fight. I think if you look at the two fighters, okay, very unorthodox on both ends. Wonderboy obviously really just a new breed of MMA fighters. Like Johnny Hendricks, I thought Johnny Hendricks was going to beat Thompson, and his wrestling played no factor because Wonderboy didn't allow Hendricks to even get off on the right foot. He used his movement, he used his stand-up. Hendricks couldn't get off anywhere. Now, Rory's also a master game plan guy. I mean, if you look at the fight against Tyron Woodley, everyone thought, well, not everyone, but a lot of people thought Woodley was going to go out there and knock him out or take care of him with his wrestling. Rory MacDonald was able to neutralize him. So you've got these two really high-level styles going toe-to-toe. Now, if we're taking that in consideration, Rory's coming off a huge fight with Robbie Lawler where he took a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Thompson's coming off a quick win over Hendricks. I know Thompson's got a lot of injuries. I know he doesn't have the experience that Rory has, but I got to go with Thompson in this one. I think the momentum's on his side. I think Rory, he's fighting in Canada. All the pressure's on him. Look, if Wonderboy loses this fight, it's not a big deal. I think he can come back. The division's still pretty wide open. If Rory loses this fight, he's got to go into free agency off 2 straight losses. he's 26 years old. He's still pretty young, but I mean, he's nowhere near, I think, where Wonderboy is as far as the momentum goes. So I got to go Thompson in this fight. I think he wins a decision. I think, I don't think he finishes Rory because Rory, extremely tough to finish. But I see, Thompson just being able to kind of outpoint him in another sort of war like we saw with Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you on the Rory MacDonald not being finished because he did the smart thing and he had time off after that fight. Plenty of time off. Let his brain, let his body recover from it. So he didn't rush in and try to get a fight like around the new year. He took a lot of time off. He's had nearly a year off the fight. I think it's a great move. It's a great idea when you have a fight like that. Stephen Thompson, yeah, he's just magical at the moment. There's so much. He's just not. He can't do anything wrong. It's the only thing is I find Rory MacDonald. He's a potential kryptonite for so many fighters. Like you said, the Tyron Woodley fight, he made Tyron Woodley cower into the wall, like the cage, and just didn't have a clue. Like Woodley just couldn't figure out what to do with Rory. Rory is one of them guys. He's so clever. He's such a smart fighter IQ. So's Wonderboy as well. I could see maybe Rory potentially being a chess match in the fact that he could maybe just outplay him a little bit. Wonderboy Thompson could maybe be a smart fighter, but I wouldn't be surprised with the way everything's going for Wonderboy. He's just got that golden touch.
And he's got the knockout power too. I mean, You don't just go out there and knock out Johnny Hendricks. I mean, Robbie Lawler couldn't do it. There's been plenty of strikers that have fought Johnny Hendricks and haven't been able to finish him. And Wonderboy did it in one round. The other thing I'll say about Rory is that these two used to train together. And, if we're looking at camps, I mean, it's tough to say. Rory's a TriStar. Frost is a master game plan strategist. Thompson, I know, has been splitting time between, South Carolina, his gym, and then also with Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
So it's tough to say, but, Rory will be well prepared. No doubt about that. But if you go with the momentum, you go with the power, you go with just the overall kind of momentum, Thompson's the guy. I mean, I'm not super confident in either guy, just because it's such a chess match. But if I have to bet, which I did actually, I bet Thompson at plus money. I know it's very un-Canadian to say that, but I couldn't pass up on that opportunity. I took Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and Wonderboy's actually the favorite now, the line flip, so it's interesting.
There you go. That's how close it is, that especially on the betting line. Look, James, from a personal perspective, how do you see UFC Ottawa from a Canadian kind of MMA fan? When you heard about the card, you've seen the card now, that's the card you're going to get, as long as no one slips and falls out the bath and bangs their head. How do you look at it, mate?
I think it's an incredible card. I think for a fight night card, it doesn't get any better than this. And it's going to be successful for a couple of reasons. First off, it's a new market. So, anytime they go into a new market, you're going to get people who just want to see the UFC, who've probably never seen a UFC before.
Yeah.
So you get a good chunk of those people. It's in Canada's capital in Ottawa. A lot of people don't realize that. People think Toronto's the capital of Canada. It's actually Ottawa. So, there is a decent, support, as far as supporting sports and everything like that. They have the Ottawa Senators there who play in the NHL. So they do get pretty good crowds out. This is going to be at the TD Place, which is where the Ottawa 67s, the junior hockey team, plays. So it's a little bit of a smaller venue, but it's sold out already. That's what you want to do. If you put this at the the Canadian Tire Center, which is where the Senators play, which is about 40 minutes outside the city, it probably wouldn't do as well because it's a bigger stadium. It's a pain in the ass to get out there. Traffic is brutal. I know because I lived there for 5 years, and it's an absolute pain in the ass to go to a hockey game out there. But if you go to, they're doing it at TD Place, you can get there by bus. You can get there, the traffic's, kind of bad, but at the same time, it's a lot better than it would be out in the CTC Center. So I see it doing quite well, and I know that the fans there are hungry for the sport. I have a couple friends out there who are going to the card. They're stoked, and like I said, it's great time of year too. It's nice and warm in Ottawa, so fans are going to really be in for a nice treat. This is a perfect card for a perfect time of year.
Also, I can't wait to see the whole event itself, and you're going to the event, aren't you, as well? You're doing a bit of press work?
I'm going to be there Thursday, so I'm hoping to go to the pre-fight presser. I'm getting in Thursday morning, taking the train down from Toronto. Geographically, so people kind of understand, Toronto's about a good 5 hours away from Ottawa, but I'll be taking the train, Got a $100 round trip ticket. Going to be heading down there Thursday morning, and I'll be there right till Sunday afternoon. So I'll be getting lots of interviews. I'm going to be bringing my camera. I'll be repping Sportsnet while I'm down there, so Canadian outlet. So I'll be getting lots of coverage for that, and excited to talk to the fighters too, because some of these guys I've already seen them fight. I've already interviewed them, so it's a real treat to some of the guys like Misha Serkinov, for example. I've interviewed him a handful of times. This will be my first time getting to see him fight live, so I'm really excited for this. And I know a lot of other fellow Canadians who are media reporters who are going to be heading down there too, so it'll be pretty fun.
Oh, fantastic, James! Sounds like it's going to be a great time for you and Canada. Anyway, I think Canada they've needed this card for a long time. Obviously, it's that card. We spoke about it last time. I think before the Ottawa card got announced, we were talking about the whole thing with Canada and the fight cards. James, before I let you go, mate, again, your podcast, Barn Shot, get that all out there, get all the good stuff, get that information out to people at home. I will obviously put it in the comment section anyway, but stick it on all out there.
Awesome. Well, like I said, thank you so much for having me on, John. I always enjoy talking to you. It's one of my favorite shows to do. Guys, if you're listening, go subscribe to their YouTube channel. I always check out their interviews every week, so you guys should do the same. But let's talk about me here. At Lynch on Sports on Twitter, MMAoddsbreaker.com. You can check out all my work on there. You can also check out my work on Sportsnet.ca and my YouTube channel as well, YouTube.com/Lynch on Sports. I keep it all easy. Got a bunch of interviews up there. I'll be doing a bunch more this week. I just did one this past weekend with Rich Clementi, which was awesome. I always love talking to fighters from the mid 2005 2006 regime, and got Clementi to talk all about the Ultimate Fighter and his feud with Melvin Gillard and retirement. And he's one of the fighters, John, that's actually gone on to do quite good things. He's an area manager for a medical company. He makes really good money, and he also runs a gym. So it's nice to see kind of one of those nice stories you see after fighting, as opposed to the ones where guys are kind of on hard luck. So appreciate you having me on, man.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure, James. Thank you so much. Have a great time at the UFC Ottawa card. I'll be watching. I'll be looking out for your face in the little press bit, and